Hi, good evening, and welcome to the DC Fair Elections Program debate for the At-Large Council Special Election. I'm your moderator, Michael Bryce Sadler, reporter for CityCast DC. I was part of the Pulitzer Prize winning team at the Washington Post in 2022 for covering the U.S. Capitol assault, and I'm here tonight to help you understand the high stakes of this race. The special election is being held to fill the vacancy created when Kenyon McDuffie resigned from the council in January to launch his bid for mayor. The winner of this election will serve the remainder of the current term, which is set to expire on January 2nd, 2027. This is also the 7th fair elections debate hosted by the Office of Campaign Finance. First, I'll introduce Elissa Silverman, who previously represented the district as an at-large council member from 2015 to 2023. An independent and former journalist, she is known as the architect of the city's paid family leave program and for extensive background in DC budget analysis. Next, I'll introduce Jacque Patterson. He's the president of the DC State Board of Education and served 5 terms as an ANC, or Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner, and he is also a proud Ward 8 resident. And to the right is Doni Crawford, the current at-large council member. She was unanimously appointed by her colleagues in January to fill this seat on an interim basis until this election could be held. Before joining the council as a member, she served as a committee director for the Committee on Business and Economic Development. Before we begin, I want to emphasize the importance of civility and respect in tonight's proceedings. While debates are an opportunity for candidates to express differing views and contrast their policy platforms, we ask that all participants and audience members maintain a level of decorum. Personal attacks, interruptions, and disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. Before we dive into opening statements, a quick note on the format. Candidates will have 1 minute to respond to direct questions. Rebuttals are not guaranteed and will be granted solely at my discretion. Later in the program, we will have a candidate-to-candidate segment and a lightning round. We have a lot of ground to cover tonight, so I ask that all of you keep a close eye on the clock. And with that, we'll go into 1-minute opening statements. I'll start with Elissa Silverman. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, Michael, Doni, and Jacque. And most importantly, DC voters, my name is Elissa Silverman. I previously served, as Michael said, for 2 terms as an independent DC council member. Let me start with the obvious. Why come back? 3 reasons. Number 1, thousands of our neighbors have lost their jobs or are afraid to come to work or go to school because of President Trump and the Republican Congress's recklessness. I'm focused on protecting our residents and home rule and getting people and our economy back to work. Number 2, that's why we need to spend our $22 billion budget much, much better. I'm known for my focus on oversight. And I worked for a time in Maryland government. It just wasn't where I should be. What I offer DC voters is the experience of getting hard things done, like paid family and medical leave, and a track record of leadership for working people in our city. I look forward to the discussion tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Silverman. Mr. Patterson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jacque Patterson. As stated, I'm the president of the State Board of Education. Currently, I served 5 terms as your ANC in 8B, Ward 8. But more significantly, this is one of the most consequential elections that we will ever have. Unlike my candidates that are next to me, I'm running for the specific reasons that we need to move this city forward. We understand that we're going to have budgets that are the most constrained that we've ever had before. My partner here, she's ran on the council before, and we need new ideas and a new way of doing things. I want to make sure that people understand that I'm the fresh face, the person that needs to be on the council, and also is grounded in our communities. As I said, I've been in our communities for a long period of time, serving in various roles. Outside of just being on the State Board of Education and being an ANC, I've served on various boards and commissions that have served our cities, and I know that's who I listen to, and I look forward to serving them again.
Thank you. And Ms. Crawford.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Michael. My name is Doni Crawford. I serve as your at-large council member on the DC Council. I'm a Ward 5 resident, and I've been living in Carver-Langston for nearly a decade. I came here because I wanted to work in partnership with communities to put policies and budgets in place that would improve their day-to-day lives. And I've successfully done that. I've done that at a progressive think tank. I've done that as the committee director for the Committee on Business and Economic Development, and I am doing that now as your at-large council member. As was stated, I was unanimously appointed by every single one of my colleagues, from the most moderate to the most progressive, because they trust me, they know my work ethic, and they know that I will work hard on your behalf. Going forward, I hope to work with you on building more affordable housing, building an inclusive economy, and fighting for statehood and protecting our limited home rule. Again, my name is Doni Crawford, and I hope by the end of today's discussion, you will rank me #1 and support me on June 16th.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. So with that, I'll jump into our first question, and it's going to be in the realm of public safety. DC has seen a statistical drop in homicides this year, yet just last month, we had a single week where 7 people were killed, including 2 children. Given this recent spike, what specifically does the administration and council need to focus on right now to stabilize our communities? And I'll start with Ms. Crawford.
Thank you for the question. I would say you're right. Although crime has decreased over the last couple of years, there is still a perception and a reality that it is not safe in many neighborhoods, especially in Ward 7 and 8. And so I want to focus on prevention primarily, making sure that we are working with community partners to put in place violence interruption programs, making sure our schools are adequately funded, making sure that people have access to healthy foods, all the things that could lead to crime over time. And I also want to make sure that when we talk about MPD and our police force, we know we are spending millions and millions of dollars on overtime. And I want to decrease the amount of money that we're spending in overtime and put that into policing so that we have a police force that has a positive quality of life. They're able to go home to their families and not have to work around the clock to fill the gaps that currently exist in our city.
Thank you. Mr. Patterson, same question for you. What needs to happen to stabilize our communities right now?
I think every single year we see the same thing happen, that as summer months come, it gets warmer, we start to see a spike in crime because kids are out. And I think that's because we have not really invested in police and community policing. And so we really need to make sure that we're investing in community policing above all things. And that means reconstituting our reserve officers, which is a way that we can drive down, as was stated by Doni, the overtime that we have and put that money not just in the police force, but in programming that our children need. Our children are doing the things that they're doing because they have not had a strong investment in mental health and in their after-school programming and in their summer programming. One of the things that's also that we need to do is to ensure that we are paying students a minimum wage, because currently we do not do the mayor's program for the summer jobs program. So if we want to bring down crime, we want to make sure that we're investing in things, which is our community and our children.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Ms. Silverman, same question.
Thanks for the question, Michael. We need people to feel safe across the city, no matter what neighborhood they live in. And that means, first, we need to follow evidence-based best practices. We talk about community policing, and we have an opportunity, there's a new chief, to actually do community policing. We've spent a lot of time post-George Floyd. We had a task force that looked at how we should reform MPD and bolster it. We should implement those best practices that came from cities that do have good practices in crime reduction, but also making sure residents don't feel targeted and they feel safe. In terms of violence interruption, again, we need to look at evidence-based practices. We have an expert at the University of Maryland, Thomas Abt. He wrote a book that Chief Lanier got me to read. And Thomas Abt says we're not following best practices when it comes to violence interruption. We need to do that and make sure it works well.
Thank you. And I always said if anyone wants to respond to another candidate, just raise your hand and I'll consider calling on you.
If I may.
Sure.
When we talk about violent interrupters specifically, I can appreciate someone from Maryland, but when you're talking about violent interrupters, because I've worked with them in my job at KIPP DC, we need to make sure that we're coordinating our violence interrupters with our MPD, with our school leadership. What happens a lot of the times is we don't see the coordination. Everyone is protecting their own turf, so to speak, so that they'll be relevant. But the thing is, there's no coordination there. When I worked with these individuals in Ward 5 specifically, we were able to bring down crime in that particular area around the Trinidad area about 40%. So it's about coordination and making sure that they're well trained and there's coordination.
Thank you. Moving on to the next question about youth crime. Beyond hiring more police officers, what's your specific plan to intervene with repeat youth offenders before their actions escalate to violent crime? Ms. Crawford, I'll start with you on this one.
This one, I have already put in place some amendments recently last year. I want to make sure that youth, including youth who have offended in the past, have opportunities to see programming in their neighborhoods and all around the city. We often take a punitive approach with youth, and I understand why, because adults are sometimes afraid of the youth. And I'm not speaking to myself, but that's what I've heard from my constituents. I think it's important that we hear from youth, which is why I've attended several youth town halls, and they have said to me repeatedly they don't have places to go, and they want more spaces all around the city. And so one of the actions that we did last week on the council was just ensure that anytime we are telling youth where they cannot go, we also put investments and activities in place for them all around the city. And I think it starts there.
Thank you. Ms. Silverman, I'll go to you next.
Sure. I think we need to take the same approach that we take to adults, which is a lot of our kids are just being kids. And there's a small group of kids that create some trouble. And we need to focus on those kids and give them the supports they need, whether it is mental health supports, whether it is whether it's giving them work. We are very well known for our summer youth employment program, but one thing I did on the council was create a year-long mentorship and internship program that I funded. And that's because the summer is only 6 weeks. We need to focus on the full year and give people opportunity to not only see what they could do with the skills they have, but give them mentors as well to see a path forward for the future.
Thank you. And Mr. Patterson, what's your specific plan to intervene with repeat youth violent offenders?
Okay, first and foremost, what we need to do, I've been here long enough to remember Peaceaholics, when we once had Peaceaholics. And one thing that I learned from them and from the groups that I've worked with right now is that you need to have violent interrupters who actually know the communities, come from the communities, and win the trust of youth to really inform them of how we can bring down violence in situations, but also what's happening in the community. I think the one thing that we need to do is make sure that our violence interrupters are not just here for school time, but also throughout the whole year, and that we have them in our communities working with our youth to make sure that we understand what's happening, what beefs are happening. These things crop up from something very small, if something that can be on social media. And we need to make sure that we're attending to those. And also, as was stated, we need to make sure we have great mental health after school program, and we're paying them a fair wage, for them to do summer jobs.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Crawford.
Both of my fellow candidates also mentioned mental health, so I just want to add the school-based mental health, behavioral health program has been cut in the fiscal year 27 budget. So it's really important that we put investments behind that. We saw after the pandemic how important it was for every school to have a clinician for students. We've seen suicide rates go up after COVID. We've seen just in many areas that the youth are not fully okay when it comes to their mental health. And so I want to make sure we're putting the resources behind it, and I plan to fight for that program going forward.
Michael, can I, since everyone else is joining in?
Yeah,
the one thing I
30
think
seconds.
we need to do is listen to our young people. Jacque and I were at Thurgood Marshall Academy, and I asked our young people, why do you go to Navy Yard? And they're like, because I eat Chipotle, and I want something to do. And one thing they said to me is, the recreation programs that we have don't meet everyone's needs. They want to know how to edit video because they're on TikTok. They want to produce music. And I think we need to be creative in creating programs that meet their needs and, their wants.
Thank you. Appreciate the response. Ms. Crawford, this question is going to be for you. You've talked about your role in negotiating the Commander Stadium redevelopment deal and securing community benefits. However, economic data consistently shows that publicly subsidized stadiums rarely deliver the promised financial return for local residents, and billionaire owners often find loopholes in local hiring requirements. With the city facing severe revenue constraints, why should voters trust that your stadium deal will not end up being a massive corporate giveaway at the expense of taxpayers?
what needs to happen is every member of the council needs to take their oversight responsibility seriously, because what you said is true, and I agree with it. The deal is only as good as our eyes on the deal, right? So we already have had hearings on the plans around RFK, around some of the site placements for parking, around some of the business investments on Councilmember Felder's committee. So I think it's really important that every step of this process, we have to make sure that we are conducting rigorous oversight. Otherwise, we may not see the deal manifest the way that we intended it to. So my commitment is to make sure that I am closely following the implementation of this project so that we can secure the wins that we intended to for our community.
Thank you. Ms. Silverman, this question's for you. You served on the council, as you mentioned, for 8 years, but the voters chose to go a different direction at the end of your last term. You had a reputation as a fierce advocate, but also as someone who frequently clashed with the mayor and your council colleagues on occasion. What specific lesson did you learn from your defeat, and how would your approach to consensus building change if voters send you back to the Wilson Building?
Sure, it's a great question. You know, when difficult things happen to you, you have a choice. You can either keep repeating the same behavior or you can change. And I chose to change, Michael. This has been a real period for me, I hope to say, of growth. And I'll give you the example of paid family leave. Paid family leave still is a contentious issue in district politics, even though it's a very successful program that has helped tens of thousands of families. If I had to do it over again, I wouldn't want to have Opportunity DC and the consortium of universities as enemies in paid leave. When Georgetown University said, yeah, we do paid leave, I should have said, that's great. Let's lock arms and make sure that everyone in the city can have that opportunity to take care of themselves and their families. So that's just one example. I'm happy to give others.
Thank you for that response. Mr. Patterson, a question for you. You described yourself earlier as an outsider, a fresh face who could arrive on the council. So why should voters trust that you're ready to take this position compared to your colleagues here?
Okay, while I would be new to the council, I'm not new to the city. So let's just start there. I've been here 30 years. I've raised my children here. My daughter is a teacher at Thurgood Marshall that you just mentioned. I have children that go to Duke Ellington School of the Performing Arts. One's a freshman, one is a junior. And so I've been here in this city doing the work for a long period of time. So although it would be my first time at the particular council, so to speak, working in this city is something I've been doing for such a long time. Whether I'm working at Martha's Table as one of their senior leaders there and moving that particular site over to east of the river, or some of the other groups that I've worked with. I've worked on housing at the Housing Finance Agency. I am a veteran. I served on the Veterans Board. So I've been in the city doing the hard work in the community. And so, yes, I would be a very fresh face on the council, but not a face that is new to the people that are in the community.
Thank you. Moving on to the next topic, housing. Housing in D.C. frequently forces a tough policy choice. If you had to prioritize right now, which comes first? Faster housing production by reducing regulatory barriers or enforcing deeper affordability requirements? What's the trade-off that you're willing to accept? I'll do Ms. Crawford for this one.
I would say faster housing production, because even if we were going to prioritize deeply affordable housing, we know that because of challenges with our existing market, we are just not building as much as we used to. And a lot of that is because, as you named, our regulatory burdens. Developers are choosing to go to Virginia, they're choosing to go to Maryland because they find it easier to get financing and to build. So we need to make sure that we make it just as easy to build housing, and then we will also be able to build and invest in that deeply affordable housing. There are a number of ways that we could do this, but even looking at the Housing Production Trust Fund, which is our primary tool to building affordable housing, this year, there's only $40 million in it, and it's usually $100 million. And I think that's part of the reason that we're not investing is we're not seeing those projects come to life. So, yeah.
Mr. Patterson?
Yes, I'm in agreement with Ms. Crawford. I think we have to move faster on producing housing. And it's a very simple fact for me because I have a daughter, as I mentioned earlier, who is a teacher and could not afford to buy the home in which she was raised in. because of the price of it and what she makes, because housing is so expensive here. We need to make sure that we're building denser areas. I'm seeing the redevelopment of Berry Farms right now. I agree 100% with Berry Farms. That was a long-fought project, but we're making it more denser so that we can have more people that are on that place, but not displacing anyone. I also worked with Mayor Williams when we did a Hope 6 project very early on in my ANC career. We brought most of the people back that wanted to live there again, but we opened up that whole community, and that turned into a giant grocery store and development in the whole community. So when we build more housing, we create more opportunities both for jobs and for people to be able to buy a house at a reasonable rate.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Silverman.
I don't think it's a trade-off, Michael. I think that we can do what Doni and Jacque say. I agree with them that we need to build more and that we need to remove the regulatory burdens. But we have hundreds of vacant units in the DC Housing Authority that are just sitting there. We have voucher holders who we can't process their vouchers to get them into units. We need to be able to do both. I think we can, and that's something I really want to work on in returning to the council. I spent a lot of time focused on the housing authority, and people think, oh, it's public housing. It is our land. We can redevelop our public housing to be a real asset, not only for low-income families, but for market rate units as well. So I guess I would disagree that it is an either-or proposition.
Thank you. Ms. Crawford, you want to
I
respond?
will just add the timer didn't start.
I see. Yeah. Thank you.
I was looking at that as well.
But Elissa, you also know more than anyone that the Housing Production Trust Fund is we are required to spend 50% of that money toward the lowest affordable housing, 0 to 30% area median income. And we just haven't been doing that over the years. And I think part of that is because the broad conversation about housing and not being able to finance projects. We've heard that from just the private sector quite a bit. And so I think there is something to getting that engine going again before we can start to actually fulfill our deeply affordable requirements.
Look forward to working with you on that, Doni.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on slightly to a question I received from a reader online today. Many residents feel the city defaults to solving problems with more spending and new programs. As an at-large council member, what is one existing problem you would solve through better oversight or restructuring rather than just throwing money at it? And if you mentioned a program already, please pick another one. Let's start with Ms. Silverman on this.
Yeah. I spent the 8 years that I served as an at-large council member focused on oversight. If I had to, I chaired the labor committee, and I feel like a lot of the programs that we had to get folks into work didn't get them into permanent jobs. Project Empowerment would be one of those programs. This is a program, a transitional employment program that's designed to help folks, particularly folks who are transitioning back to the community, to get into work. We need to spend those dollars a lot better and work with employers so that we can get our residents into permanent employment, especially right now. That's why I focused on jobs like IT, the Hope Project. We have somebody, Ray Bell, who gets folks who don't even have a college degree into six-figure jobs with contractors like Lockheed Martin. We need to do more of that.
Thank you. Mr. Patterson, same question for you.
I'm going to say one that's probably not popular, but I'm going to say we need to reform the TANF program. We have people, TANF, temporary assistance for needy families. We have a number of individuals that are actually past the 5-year federal limit. So we're not receiving reimbursements for anyone that has passed the 5-year to 60-month time limit that's on that. But yet we still pay for individuals. We chose that as a city because we're a caring city, right? But in time constraints and the things that we have going on right now, these budget constraints that we have right now, we can no longer do that. So we have to help our citizens be able to move off TANF within the regulated reimbursement time of 60 months, 5 years, and stop paying that. We can no longer do that.
Thank you. Ms. Crawford.
I have said previously, I don't think we should immediately go to our Health and Human Services cluster or even our Education Workforce cluster. I think we should look at areas all across the district budget, but one of the things that I've already prioritized, and it was part of my first bill, is looking at our tax incentive programs. we are supposed to study our tax abatements and how much we give to projects all around the city on a recurring basis every 5 years. We haven't comprehensively studied this since November of 2018. So I think we are losing money in some cases where what we intended for these tax abatements to spur in our economy may not be realized. And therefore, I think we need to look at those programs and make some cuts and recapture that money and put it into social services and housing.
Thank you. Sticking with housing, downtown office vacancy is hovering near 20%. The current administration has pushed for tax incentives to help developers convert these empty offices into residential spaces. If it is the only way to get a project moving, do you support waiving affordable housing requirements for downtown conversions, or would you rather see the buildings remain empty than build exclusively luxury apartments? I'll start with Mr. Patterson here.
I'm going to make this short and sweet. I would waive it. Yes, we need to make sure that those housings are available to people. We already have talked about housing a little bit and the stock that we have. We need to get every available unit that we can possibly get available to us, and we need to revitalize our downtown. With people being downtown, that creates more businesses and foot traffic for downtown. So that is something I would really love to work with developers and small businesses so that because we lost 22,000 federal jobs. That's a big hit to our local budget. So we need to make sure that we supplement that with the housing. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, Ms. Silverman, do you support waiving affordable housing requirements to increase the housing stock downtown?
So this is a change in my thinking in that we need to subsidize the conversions from office to residential. And I was skeptical of that because it's so expensive, but I think it's the future of our downtown and we need to do it. But again, I would challenge the trade-off. I think that we can spend money to subsidize. Those are your taxpayer dollars that are going to build these projects, and I think we can expect some affordability in those projects as well for the investment that we're making in those residential properties.
Thank you. Ms. Crawford, same question.
I do not support waiving affordable housing requirements for these conversions downtown, but what I do support is fast tracking projects that actually include a certain percentage of affordable units, because as we've all mentioned, projects have been stuck. And so I think as an incentive, if we can say, hey, if you build 30, 35%, I don't know what the number is, we can talk about it, in affordable housing, then you get a fast track toward gap financing here in the district. And I think that may make developers more likely to build downtown and enter into some of these conversion programs. Over time, we haven't seen as much take up in our office to anything program. So perhaps that's something we can look into, even though the conversions go to non-residential uses, but just to get downtown going.
Thank you. Moving topics. DC continues to face interference from Congress, threatening local laws and policies. What is one concrete step the council can take in the next year to better protect the district's autonomy and its budget? We'll start with Ms. Crawford.
So I've heard from constituents quite a bit, and in my short time in office, a lot of residents, particularly our immigrant neighbors, feel terrorized and traumatized by ICE and HSI, and I think it's really important that we prioritize their safety. I've already introduced permanent and emergency legislation to require MPD to be more transparent when they're cooperating with federal immigration enforcement. But there's also a bill pending in the Committee on Judiciary, which I sit on, and I've been vocal about saying we should have a public hearing and move that bill. That bill would prohibit MPD from collaborating with federal immigration enforcement unless there's a judicial warrant in place. And so I think that's one thing we can do to make sure that we are codifying these protections for our neighbors all across the district.
Thank you. Ms. Silverman, what else can the council do to minimize that interference?
So I agree with what Doni said. We need to send a message to our residents that we're protecting them and that we're following our own law when it comes to our sanctuary city law. It's hard for us to argue for home rule when we don't follow our own law. But Michael, what I would say is it's about process here. I don't like that word process. It's about getting everyone on the same page. We need to make sure that the Attorney General, our Attorney General, Brian Schwab, our mayor, the council, and our delegate, whoever that might be in the future, are all on the same page when it comes to strategy. I think we've looked flat-footed when it comes to federal interference. The example I would give is when we decided to decouple. We're messing with Trump's big spending bill. We should expect that there's going to be pushback from Trump in the Republican Congress. So what I would say is I would be the voice for the council. Do we have a legal opinion? What's the attorney general saying? Is the mayor on board? And making sure that we have all of our ducks in a row.
Thank you. Mr. Patterson.
Yeah, this is a very interesting question for the simple fact, last year when we lost $1.1 billion because they decided to take local money that they could not spend out of our budget because of some wording and some of the budgetary stuff that went before Congress. And our kids went without, okay? So what we saw there illustrated in that was that, as was said, there was no coordination between the council and the delegate and the things that were happening. So we suffered for over basically almost a year. The mayor had to scramble to replace things. We have to do a much better job at coordinating the laws that are being written from the council to also working with our delegate hand in glove to make sure that they also know that we will have the support or who is upsetting, because they have that relationship. And that's the relationship that has to happen. We lost that, and we have to get that back. And I do agree that we also have to make sure that our attorney general is on board as well. We have to be singing from the same page and also understanding the politics that are revolving around any particular legislation that we're passing.
Ms. Crawford, you want to respond?
Yes. So I have a question for both of my opponents, fellow candidates. You both mentioned coordination and wanting to be on the same page with the executive, with the Office of the Attorney General, and particularly around ICE, HSI, federal immigration.
Right.
What is your position on if we do not have that collaboration or alignment with those agencies? What then should the council do? Are you saying we should not take action, or are you saying we should still take action even if they are not on the same page with us, particularly on this issue?
Well, I will always say, I'll jump in. What I will say is that at the end of the day, you have to have that type of coordination. We're not always going to agree, but we do have to at least notify each other of what's coming. I think a lot of times you cannot ever blindside one part of our government when they don't know what legislation is being proposed, and then we're playing catch up. So no, we're not going to agree on every single thing, but we can make each other aware so that at least we can get our talking points together. At least we can talk about where we disagree, those type of things. But we should move forward wherever we're going to pass legislation, and the votes are there. 7 votes are there to pass it. We should move forward.
Silverman, you respond?
Yeah, good question, Doni. I would say that we need to be clear with our residents and with our school leaders, for example. There was a lot of confusion with our school leaders about what to do if ICE shows up at the door of a KIP or a rocket ship, or any of this, or a school or a public school building in the traditional system. And it took a while to get the Attorney General's guidance, and it was excellent guidance. But those are the questions that the council should be asking up front. Is that, first of all, again, I think that MPD should not cooperate with ICE when it comes to immigration enforcement. That is our law. We should follow our own law. But then I think we got to be clear. We are protecting our immigrant neighbors. We are making sure that school personnel, principals, teachers, maintenance workers know what to do when ICE shows up. And I think that sends a message to our residents that we really care about them and that we're here to protect them.
Thank you. And we'll stick with asking each other questions. Thank you for getting that started. Ms. Silverman, do you have a question you'd like to ask your fellow candidates?
Sure. How can we work together?
Would you like to go first? I'll do first.
Oh, sure. I work with everybody. So I'm very open, I'm transparent, I get along with everyone, and whatever ideas that you have that you want to move forward in partnership with me, I would be willing to do that. I don't know if there are issues that you would want to work specifically with me and Jacque on, but I'm always willing to work with anyone to push the agenda forward for DC.
Great.
And the same for me. I think we've known each other for quite
Yes,
some time. I can actually say that you actually endorsed me at one particular time back in the day when you were a writer for the city paper.
2004 Ward
Yes,
8
exactly,
election.
exactly. So I know that we have a lot of things in common and that we share a lot of the same passions for our city and everything like that. I don't think we would have a problem working with each other on issues that we truly care about. And as I turn to Ms. Crawford, I know we met, on the balcony at an event for the LGBTQ community, and we had a great conversation, and I think it has just blossomed since that particular point. I think we both see each other as individuals who could work together on issues. I'm a community person. That's where I've been the whole entire time. And so I look forward to helping anyone that's in this seat. I want it to be me, of course, making sure that we are actually working with the community.
It's nice to see everyone so willing to work together. Let's see. So, talking about
You
economic
still
growth.
get to ask additional questions later.
Oh, yes, actually, you didn't have a chance to ask, did you? Okay, apologies. Would you like to ask your fellow candidates a question?
Yes, I would. I do want to address my question to you. I think it was kind of stated beforehand. For an individual who actually ran for office and lost that seat, and basically the city was telling you, like, we want to move on, we want something new. Why would you think that they would want something different in their voting in this particular election that's different from 2004? Did something change? Did your views change? What would make them say, okay, we voted you out of office. Now, why are we going to vote you back in office 4 years later?
That's a very good question, Jacque, and I appreciate you asking it. I've had a lot of people come up to me over the past 3 years and say the council has lost its focus on oversight, on making sure that my trash gets picked up, that 911 answers the phone in a timely way. Doni spoke about oversight too, so I know that she's focused on that. But there's a perception, Jacque, that things have gotten worse when it comes to delivering services to our residents, that we're not spending our money well. I mean, we even read in the newspaper when it comes a council member saying that mental health is just contracting is a cash cow. We need for that to stop. And I think residents know that I take oversight and the spending of our money very seriously. And they say, we want you to come back because we need that focus, especially as we move into a new era with a new mayor, that we want that focus on how we're spending our dollars well and asking those hard questions and sometimes having hard conversations. So thanks for the question.
Thank you. And do you want to ask a question?
Yes, I did. For you, Ms. Crawford, you were, as is stated, unanimously, approved, appointed by our chairman and your fellow colleagues that are currently. But prior to that, you had never served in any particular elected office. I don't know your full background as far as community work. I don't believe you were an ANC at any time. How can we be reassured that it's not just the council who's picking you and that's you're their favorite choice, but basically the community, because it doesn't seem as if you have that community experience, that lived-in experience of a lot of the community, especially at large, from east of the river, which is always marginalized and underserved, to other communities that are doing a little bit better.
I have worked in partnership from my very first day arriving in DC here with communities, particularly Black communities east of the river. I was actually tasked at my former place of employment, a progressive think tank. We were told by many Black members that we needed to do better as an organization, because the organization that I worked for didn't necessarily work well in partnership with Black communities. And I took that seriously, I took that responsibility seriously, and I worked really hard to build relationships across the city, but definitely in Ward 7 and Ward 8, and in my home ward of Ward 5. And you can see that in all of my work at that organization and as a staffer for the DC Council from the time when I was a legislative director all the way through as a committee director. So I have receipts on working with communities, especially Black communities here in DC, and it's something I feel passionately about. Racial equity is very close, near and dear to my heart, so I will continue to do that work as a council member too.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't ask my question.
You already got one. You already got a question.
I didn't get to ask though.
You did it.
She did.
What? Oh,
Yeah.
you're using that one?
I mean,
Okay, I'll ask later.
okay, if you have something really compelling, then by all means.
I just wanted to ask Elissa, you kind of alluded to this about workforce programs, but in the past, you questioned the value of the Marion Barry Summer Youth Employment Program, and that is a program that many Black youth in Ward 7 and 8 rely on every summer for employment.
My children.
Your children too. And I think you would also acknowledge that you have had a fraught relationship at times with the Black community. And I just wanted to ask you, what are your plans for righting your wrongs?
Sure. Thanks, Doni, for your question. So I was endorsed by Marion Barry, as Jacque will remember, in 2014. And I think that it's not quite accurate. I wanted to make sure that when people got a job in SYEP, that it meant something, that it mattered, that they felt like it was helping them develop as people. And in fact, that's why I raised the pay of 14 and 15-year-olds, which, to raise the pay of MBSYEP is expensive, as you know, being a budget person, but I prioritized it because I think we want to get our kids into not only summer employment, but full year employment. And as I said, one of the pilot programs I did was focused on the year-round internship. I think we need to do more of it, but I think it needs to be meaningful. A lot of kids testify that they were just sitting around, they weren't productive. What I want to do is let's get them into IT. Let's get them into pathways to careers. So I appreciate your question very much.
Thank you. And that was a compelling question. Do you have another you want to ask to Mr. Patterson?
I don't have a question for Jacque.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, we'll move on to economic growth. Outside of federal employment, which we know was very much affected by the current presidential administration and jobs in the city, what's one sector you would focus on growing, and what's the first step to do that? Start with Ms. Crawford.
So one sector, I'm going to kind of twist the question a little bit, that is growing is tech and AI, right? And I'm actually a little bit fearful of this area because I know AI, we've seen the increase in data centers and how that's affecting our utility costs. And then with tech, sometimes the opportunities that we have in place aren't as inclusive as they could be. So I'm really trying to make sure that for definitely college students, our future workforce, that they are taking into consideration tech and AI and what that means for them and their ability to acquire jobs in the future. And then what we can do as a district working with our regional partners to make sure that we place guardrails around that growth so that we are not seeing the impacts from data centers and just how that is impacting our utilities.
Thank you. Same question for you, Mr. Patterson.
I appreciate the question. Being a person that gets to work with children on a regular basis, I know that while AI and tech are very interesting, one of the things that we did first and foremost in our school system is to institute financial literacy. Because most of our students and most of our people want to make sure that they have that literacy to start a business and to keep that business open. I have friends who have started businesses and it has collapsed because of some of the inability to get the kind of support that they need. But we need to make sure that we're having good programs that allow our children to make that connection. And I'm focusing on children because those are the wave of people and they're trying to find good jobs. And we have a high unemployment in Ward 8 and east of the river. Because we need to make sure that they're getting into the entrepreneur programs that they can. I know a number of students who design clothes. They want to get into clothing. They want to open up their own business, their own shop. And so those are areas, just teaching a young person or a small business how to be a strong business owner and a strong entrepreneur.
Thank you. Ms. Silverman, what's one sector that you would focus on growing?
Healthcare. So one of our biggest employers in the city are our hospitals and our healthcare institutions. But an example I'll give you, Michael, of where we are missing opportunity is when COVID happened and we handed out vaccines to our healthcare workers, 3 out of 4 doses went to non-district residents. We need to flip those numbers around. And here's how I do it. First of all, I focused in my second term on the council creating a healthcare sector partnership. That's working with our big employers, working with Georgetown Hospital, working with GW Hospital and the Washington Hospital Center to create a pathways for our residents. Then we need to get UDC involved. I made nursing programs free at the community college. We need to incentivize our residents, our young people, to go into these great living wage careers. And I think we're missing a lot of opportunity right now in that sector.
Thank you. We're going to transition to a lightning round. So this is a simple yes or no. Although
I hate these.
I have been instructed to offer one sentence of explanation, but it has to be one sentence. So we'll see how this goes.
Okay.
First question, should the city increase funding for Metro even if it requires cuts elsewhere? Mr. Patterson.
No. And I'll tell you why. The reason why is because we already paid more than our fair share at Metro, and so no.
Ms. Crawford.
This is tough. I would say yes, if we could get our regional partners on board with increasing their shares as well.
Ms. Silverman.
I think Doni gives a good answer here. Metro is really important to our residents and to our economy.
Great. Okay, so far so good. Do you support a regional commuter tax to offset the blow of federal job cuts? Ms. Silverman, start with you.
I do support a commuter tax. I think at this time, given the job cuts, we might want to think about implementation timelines, but I have said that I do support that.
Mr. Patterson.
I'm going to ask, to answer the question, is that actually constitutional that we can do a commuter tax?
Oh, I thought you meant a car tax.
Yes.
Okay, a car tax, okay. If it's the car tax, that kind of, yes. Yes, I do.
Okay, thanks. Mm-hmm.
I see it similar, but I would say no because, as I mentioned, racial equity is important to me. There's a lot of residents who live east of the river who still have to drive, and I don't want to unfairly punish them for their one mode of transit that's actually reliable.
Thank you. Will you vote to return armed police to all public high schools by this fall, Mr. Patterson?
You say orange?
Armed
Armed
police.
officer.
Yes.
I would say yes, and this is the reason why. I worked in schools. I know how important our SROs were important to our schools. I know what we went through with the George Floyd period that we had, but we lost a lot when we lost our SROs, and I would say yes.
Thank you. Ms. Silverman.
I'm not sure, Michael. I'll be honest. I have to look at what the evidence-based best practices would be. So I'm not sure. I would have to take a better look at it.
Okay.
No, not at the moment.
Okay. Should DC expand automated traffic enforcement cameras, Ms. Silverman?
No.
Ms.
I think we should keep them, though. They're designed to make the streets safe, not to raise revenue.
Mr. Patterson?
I would agree, no. I think right now we're at a point where they're predatory. They're in communities where they should not actually be, and they're not doing anything to slow the traffic. They are a revenue-generating entity, and we need to stop that. We cannot continue to give people the type of tickets that we're giving them to the point where they can't even renew their license.
Ms. Crawford?
No, and I also believe we need to reassess the placement of the existing ATV cameras.
Great. One more. Should the district pilot new, potentially expensive senior care models such as dementia village-style communities? Mr. Patterson?
Yes.
Ms. Crawford?
Yes.
And Ms. Silverman?
Yes, and I'd add that in my time away from the council, I am a board member of Seabury Resources for Aging, and the reason I did that is because I very much care about senior housing and our lack of it in the city. We need much more senior housing for people, in all kinds of lifestyles.
Excellent. I'm going to move to closing statements here. Each candidate will have 1 minute to deliver that. We'll start with Ms. Silverman.
Oh, great. Well, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Doni and Jacque, for a great discussion. And thank you to the Board of Elections and the Office of Campaign Finance. Thank you to you, Michael. What I offer DC voters is a track record of asking tough questions and demanding not only accountability, but results from your hard-earned taxpayer dollars. I made sure paid family leave worked, and I lowered the tax rate. I made sure that we had a maintenance and repair fund so that our public housing residents could live in dignity, that all DC workers, whether they work in a home or in an office, were paid fairly and treated with respect. And we had public schools that prepare our kids for adulthood, but we have a lot more to do. We need to focus on what matters, lowering our truancy rate, making homes affordable, protecting our democracy, and making this a better city for all. That's why I've been endorsed by 13 organizations, including DC Women in Politics, affordable housing and transportation groups, teachers, metro workers, firefighters, hotel workers. I am truly an independent voice, and I've been independent since 2013. This is an independent seat.
Thank you,
And
Ms.
I'm asking
Silverman.
DC voters for your #1 vote.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Silverman. Ms. Crawford, your closing statement.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you to my fellow panelists. Thank you to everyone in the room. I hope that you have learned a little bit more about me and my background. I'm very passionate about public policy and the budget, and I've spent my career here in DC investing in residents all across the city, from investments in our first guaranteed income pilot to the work that I did on the RFK Stadium deal, and even to investing in Black cemeteries across the city too. I am someone who has an ability to work with my colleagues to reach across the Wilson building and work with the executive and be effective in my role. And so I want you to see me as your #1 candidate for the special election, and I am hoping that you will rank me first. And again, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. Mr. Patterson, closing
Thank
statement.
you, everyone who is here and who's watching. This is the most consequential election that we've had since the invention of home rule. You'll see more people moving from the council and different seats throughout our government than we've ever seen since home rule. That's why it's important, since on top of that, we are facing some of the most constrained budgets that we'll ever see in quite some time. So we need to make sure that we have someone who is at the council, not with old ideals, and is grounded in community. I have spent 30 years in our communities as an ANC, reserve police officer, on your State Board of Education. I ran in this city for the State Board of Education and run the trust of 229,000 residents. I was reelected because I am a trusted person who works with the community. You need someone who knows the community and can move us forward in this time and place with constrained budgets that really is grounded in community. Jacque Patterson, I need you to place me first on the ranked choice voting.
Thank you, and thanks to all of our candidates and everyone who joined us tonight. We're going to take a short break before the next debate.
Thank you, dear. Thank you.
See you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doni.